That is the explosive claim now tearing through royal circles behind closed doors, and according to whispers growing louder by the day, the one person allegedly terrified of what could come next is none other than Meghan Markle herself. Because this story is no longer just about Prince Andrew's disgrace. It's about what he allegedly knows, who he allegedly knew before Harry, and why the royal family suddenly looks like it's trying to hold together a wall already beginning to crack from the inside. The public watched Andrew collapse in humiliation. His reputation burned in real time. His royal duties vanished. His military titles disappeared. The Epstein scandal swallowed him whole while the palace desperately tried to distance itself from the fallout. But according to growing speculation surrounding old connections and buried social circles, Andrew allegedly believes he was abandoned while others connected to the same elite orbit walked away untouched. And insiders now claim that bitterness has transformed into something far more dangerous. Revenge. Not public revenge, quiet revenge. The kind that begins with private threats, angry phone calls, and warnings whispered behind palace doors. Because according to the claims exploding online, Andrew reportedly feels Meghan was protected while he became the sacrifice. And if that belief is true, then suddenly his silence becomes the most valuable weapon in the entire monarchy. What makes this story feel so unsettling is the pattern people keep pointing at. Same elite environments, same wealthy social circles, same luxury world of private clubs, yachts, secret introductions, and powerful connections. Critics online have spent years asking why Andrew's associations were investigated endlessly, while Meghan's alleged links to similar circles were barely discussed publicly at all. And whether those claims are true or exaggerated almost becomes secondary because the silence itself became the story. Silence creates suspicion. Silence creates conspiracy. Silence makes people wonder what exactly the palace did not want dragged into headlines while trying to survive one of the worst reputational disasters in modern royal history. According to the transcript, whispers surrounding Meghan and Andrew allegedly go back long before Harry entered the picture. Not random meetings, not distant introductions, allegedly something much closer. And if that claim were ever proven true, it would completely rewrite the public image of Meghan entering royal life as a total outsider unfamiliar with palace circles. Suddenly the narrative changes. Suddenly people begin asking whether Meghan already understood the machinery of elite royal networking before she ever met Harry. And that possibility alone is enough to terrify palace strategists because the monarchy survives on image, on mythology, on carefully controlled storytelling. The second the public believes key parts of that story were hidden, the institution itself starts looking manipulated instead of majestic. Then comes the detail that keeps resurfacing like a ghost the palace cannot fully bury: the yacht photographs from 2014. According to the transcript, critics online linked those images to the same elite luxury environment surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's world, especially after references to Karina Shuliak and private travel circles began circulating. Now, whether those connections are meaningful or simply internet speculation, the damage comes from perception. Because once the public starts connecting dots, even loosely, every old photograph suddenly becomes evidence in the court of online opinion. Every party becomes suspicious. Every friendship becomes a potential clue. And according to these claims, that is exactly what palace officials feared most. Not necessarily proof, but perception spiraling out of control faster than they could contain it. The story grows darker when Virginia Roberts' name enters the conversation, because according to the transcript, there were alleged claims that Meghan could have been considered as a possible witness due to her reported connection to Andrew. That single allegation changes the emotional temperature instantly, because witnesses are associated with knowledge, awareness, proximity. And even though Meghan was never called publicly, online speculation exploded over why her name allegedly surfaced at all before disappearing again into silence. That disappearance became its own controversy. Some interpreted it as proof nothing existed. Others interpreted it as evidence powerful people wanted the subject erased completely. Either way, silence kept feeding the mystery. And then the Toronto years began to look different under this lens. The transcript paints Meghan's rise not as random celebrity luck, but as strategic movement through elite social networks connected to Soho House, Marcus Anderson, and wealthy influential circles stretching from Canada to New York to London. But again, much of this remains speculative storytelling online, but in gossip narratives, patterns matter more than certainty. One introduction leads to another. One invitation opens another room. One contact suddenly places someone inches away from royalty itself. According to these claims, Meghan allegedly understood elite networking long before the world ever saw her standing beside Harry. And if that perception grows stronger, critics will argue she didn't stumble into power. They will argue she navigated directly toward it. Harry allegedly thought California would become his escape. A clean break, a fresh chapter far away from palace manipulation, royal politics, and the suffocating pressure of monarchy life. But according to the claims in the transcript, instead of peace, he reportedly found himself trapped inside growing suspicion. Because once whispers about Meghan's alleged history with Andrew began reaching him, everything around him reportedly started feeling different. Strange conversations, quiet tension, old rumors returning at the worst possible moments. The transcript paints a picture of a prince emotionally collapsing behind closed doors while publicly pretending everything was still under control. And the most brutal part? According to those claims, Harry allegedly realized too late that the family members he accused of cruelty may have been trying to warn him all along. That realization reportedly changed the emotional balance inside the marriage completely. Because if Harry ever began believing Meghan once pursued Andrew before him, then suddenly he is no longer the prince who found true love. He becomes the backup option, the replacement target, the convenient royal path after another door allegedly closed. And according to the transcript, that possibility shattered him emotionally. Imagine carrying that thought every day. Imagine wondering whether your marriage began with genuine affection or strategic ambition. That kind of paranoia poisons everything slowly. Every argument becomes loaded. Every silence becomes suspicious. Every old photograph suddenly feels dangerous. And according to these explosive claims, palace insiders allegedly watched Harry transform from defensive and protective into emotionally exhausted and isolated. But while Harry allegedly struggled privately, the monarchy itself was facing a completely different nightmare. According to the transcript, palace officials feared 3 disasters above all else. First, Harry mentally unraveling under public humiliation. Second, another Epstein-related explosion touching royal circles again. And third, the public realizing the institution may have knowingly allowed dangerous associations close to the heart of the monarchy. That final fear is the one that changes everything because royal families survive through public trust. Once the public begins believing the palace deliberately buried uncomfortable truths, the damage spreads far beyond one scandal. Suddenly, the monarchy itself starts looking compromised, weak, manipulated by secrecy instead of guided by dignity. And according to the transcript, that fear allegedly became strong enough to justify complete silence. No investigations, no public confrontation, no direct acknowledgement. Just a giant wall built around the subject while the palace hoped the world would eventually stop asking questions. And then comes Sarah Ferguson. According to the transcript, Fergie allegedly knows far more than the public realizes. She was never just Andrew's ex-wife drifting around the edges of scandal. She remained deeply connected to his private world for decades. Loyal, protective, present during countless royal chapters the public never saw. And according to these claims, she allegedly sided with Andrew regarding frustration over Meghan's supposed protection. If that allegation is true, then the danger multiplies instantly because suddenly it is not just one bitter prince threatening silence, it becomes multiple insiders potentially carrying pieces of the same buried history. The transcript even suggests Princess Eugenie allegedly knows truths connected to Meghan's earlier royal links. And whether those claims are factual or exaggerated, the image alone is devastating. A monarchy surrounded by insiders quietly holding secrets powerful enough to detonate the carefully polished modern royal narrative. What makes this entire story feel so dangerous is that nobody involved reportedly trusts anyone anymore. Harry allegedly feels betrayed. Andrew allegedly feels sacrificed. Meghan allegedly feels cornered. The palace allegedly feels trapped between protecting the institution and avoiding another global scandal. And while all of this chaos grows privately, the public only sees fragments. Small, awkward appearances, strange body language, sudden absences, tension during interviews. Every tiny detail now gets analyzed like evidence because once people believe secrets exist, they start treating every silence like confirmation. That is how royal scandals grow from rumor into mythology. Not through proof alone, but through atmosphere, through fear, through emotional contradictions nobody can fully explain away. And according to the transcript, the palace has allegedly already begun preparing for impact. That is why Catherine is reportedly being positioned more aggressively as the image of calm and stability. That is why Charles allegedly wants distance from chaos before another storm erupts publicly. That is why conversations about Harry and Meghan's long-term role reportedly became colder and harsher behind palace walls. Because if Andrew truly decides to speak openly, the monarchy reportedly fears the damage could spread uncontrollably across multiple generations of royal history. One statement moment could trigger investigations. One leaked conversation could reignite every buried rumor. One accusation could turn years of internet speculation into front-page global warfare overnight. Now, the entire royal world feels like it is standing on the edge of something massive, something unstable. Because according to these claims, there exists one hidden truth powerful enough to destroy Meghan's carefully protected royal image forever if exposed publicly. A truth allegedly known by Andrew, Fergie, and others close to palace circles. And if that truth ever emerges, the consequences would allegedly hit every corner of the monarchy at once. Harry's marriage, Charles's leadership, William's future reign, the credibility of palace decision-making itself. Everything becomes vulnerable at the exact same moment. That is why people close to the institution allegedly fear Andrew more now than they did during the Epstein fallout itself. Back then, he was only defending himself. Now, according to the claims, he may want company in destruction.